Welcome back to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter. We're talking with Street Roots publisher Israel Baer, who announced he's leaving the paper at the end of the year. What's next? We'll talk about that in just a moment. Welcome once again to Straight Talk. You mentioned the affordable housing ballot initiative. You were key in trying to get that on the ballot. How big of a win was that, and how do you want to see that money spent in the Portland area?
Oh, it was a huge win. I think that we had the vast majority of Portlanders come out and vote yes for affordable homes, which gave us over $250 million to invest in affordable housing that will be key to talking about the problems of homelessness and poverty in our community. We would very much like to see that money spent giving the opportunity to give people a safe place to call home to our most vulnerable residents, our elders, people on the streets, people with disabilities, et cetera, et cetera. So we're very much looking forward to the future of that investment starting to roll out and take place in Portland. And I think in the coming months and years, Portlanders will be very excited about everything that we're doing on that front.
Do you think that will help the homeless situation?
Oh, look, housing is the key component. I mean, we can get lost in all the politics of homelessness and many of the different complexities of it, but ultimately, the only answer to homelessness is simply having a home. And so we need to be investing heavy in housing, not just for our generations today, but for future generations. Because as the market continues to go the way it's going to go, Portland's not going to become any more affordable in the future. It's just going to become more restricted for people, elders, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to be able to build in housing as a public infrastructure the same way we do our roads and our parks and other things in order to have a healthy society far into the future. Which
may be very important locally, because federally we're seeing cuts at the federal level. How could that affect the Portland area?
Oh, you know, we had so much momentum moving into the election. We had the affordable housing bond. We were moving, the last mayor had created a housing emergency that had given us many resources to be able to thrust into the future and do some great things. And all of a sudden, the political climate around the country and the world changed, and the signals coming out of the current president's budget are that that they've more or less set the house on fire in many ways, and we're going to be experiencing deep cuts to housing programs not only in Portland but in Oregon and around the country. So we fully expect, unfortunately, in the coming months and years that we will actually see street homelessness increase. So it's that much more important for local leaders to be able to get upstream and really do something big on the issue itself.
Housing advocates really hoped that the legislature would step up with a tenant protection bill, but nothing passed in this past legislative session. What happened? What's next?
Well, I think that, you know, for far too long in Oregon, Portland and Oregon always was that sleepy city, that sleepy state on the West Coast. And so while other communities in places like San Francisco and LA and Seattle were experiencing massive change, and the market was changing around them, Portland always remained that soft market, and our state legislators never really prioritized housing in the way that it should have been. The issue of housing should be prioritized just as much as jobs, transportation, and our schools, because without homes, you can't have a healthy society. So, you know, we were disappointed in this last Oregon legislative session. We did make some revenue gains to be able to support some of our programs, but ultimately, you know, the Democratic and Republican Party has to put housing as one of their main platforms, or I believe that the old ways and the old days are over, because a populist movement is sweeping our country and will continue to sweep our country, that if we don't see change invested in poor and common folk, then ultimately people representing us will have to be changed and replaced. So we really are hopeful for the future, but we were very disappointed that some basic tenant rights for many Oregonians were not created this last legislative session, and it left a lot of people with a very sour taste in their mouth.
There was some good news with the judge upholding Portland's new ordinance requiring landlords to pay relocation expenses for tenants who are evicted because of no cause or their rent goes up 10% or more. So that was a bright spot for advocates.
Yeah, I think that, the city, look, the city of Portland and Multnomah County oftentimes is our leaders in the community, both regionally and the state, at being able to prioritize this issue. Unfortunately, we just need to see our neighboring communities and state understand that there's a housing crisis happening in Lincoln City and Seaside and Cannon Beach and Bend and Ashland. This is not just a Portland problem. We're seeing struggling people all over the state face the housing crisis, and we have to be able to lift that up and do some great things in the future.
We have under 2 minutes left, but I want to touch on the future of Street Roots. With you leaving, what do you see the future of the paper?
Oh, the newspaper is in a great place. Financially, we've never been more secure. We have a great team around us. Oftentimes I'm the face of Street Roots, but ultimately it's a team. We're a team that's doing tremendous work, and so currently our board of directors is working with a consultant that will lead a transition plan, and we'll be doing a hiring process, and we'll be hiring somebody in the next 6 months to take my place. And I think the future of Street Roots will be bold and bright and amazing. There are so many opportunities for the newspaper in the future to be able to do some great things, not only in Portland, but in our region and around the state. And I look for nothing but good things from the organization. We
have just over a minute. What about your future? What's the future of Israel Bear? What's next for you?
Well, I'm going to take some time and write a book. I'm going to write a series of vignettes about my experiences with poverty, homelessness. It's going to be sad and funny and serious, and take a look at a behind-the-scenes look of politics and their relationship to homelessness in Portland and homelessness in America, in a way that I hope to give a little bit more of a straight talk on what's actually happening in our world, and some of the barriers we face and some of the things we could actually do to actually solve the problem.
In just about 15 seconds, a final thought about homelessness that you'd like to leave people with?
Hey, I think that when I hear that Portlanders aren't behind giving people homes and don't support people experiencing homelessness, I don't believe that for a second. I believe all of us, rich, poor, regardless of your political bent, believe that all Americans should have a safe place to call home.
Well, Israel Bear, thanks for being here on Straight Talk. Thank you for your work on behalf of people who are homeless. And we hope you'll come back when you write your book.
All right, thank you very much.
And tell us all about it.
Thank you.
Good luck in the future.
Yep.
And thank you for watching Straight Talk. We want to remind you that Straight Talk airs twice a weekend, Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. and Sundays at 6:30 p.m. right after NBC Nightly News. Thank you to Israel Bear, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next week for Straight Talk.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.